chassis and what kind of a performance he can put in with it.
Yeah, good stuff, Jack. Thanks very much. It was a great spot this morning to see Luca Marini out on that new Honda chassis. Fourth quickest was Marini, a second faster than his Honda HRC Castrol colleague Joan Mir, who was down in 19th place. You'd imagine if that cat stayed the same throughout the remainder of this weekend. Well, you know what Joan Mir's question is going to be to Honda's engineers late on tonight. Give me the Marini chassis, thank you very much.
I'm sure you've got some of those lying around, Joan says, to perhaps throw my way. Of course, the evidence of this morning is useful, but I think we'll get a firmer idea just how competitive Luca Marini and that new Honda chassis are in this session. Everyone now up to speed, more rubber on the racetrack. Riders had different priorities across the field this morning, particularly if you
is all.
HRC test rider Aleix Espargaro. Unfortunately, Aleix Espargaro, part of his new career ventures, has seen him take up pro cycling, and it's a cycling crash which unfortunately has ruled Aleix out of this Grand Prix. He did make the journey on a private jet. You might see him on social media with Jorge Martin. He did arrive here in Balaton Park with the intention of replacing Chantra. Unfortunately, that cycling crash a few days ago, after further medical checks, he got a nasty blow to his back, which saw him declared unfit, and unfortunately, no Espargaro brothers lining up here this weekend together in Balaton.
a couple of Grand Prix in a row now for LCR when they've been trying to replace Chantra, but there haven't been any takers for whatever reason on board that Honda. I'm sure Haki being fully fit, they might want to call upon Mika Lecuona, who of course rides a Honda in World Superbikes and will have ridden around this Balaton Park circuit, but of course having hurt himself at that event, Lecuona not available this weekend. Frank Morbidelli, who we just saw by the way incidentally in the pits, came in at the end of his outback but has immediately returned to the racetrack once again.
Yeah, a bit of a confident Saturday morning session for Morbidelli. He was our first MotoGP faller here in Hungary this morning at turn 1, and then he followed it with another crash at turn 15. So actually, when all said and done, given that a few dramas for Morbidelli this morning, he did pretty well to finish inside the top 10. 7th fastest 40 race, and Team Eagle down to the high 138s as well.
You can see from this onboard shot from Pedro Acosta how tricky it is to overtake around this Red Bull circuit, although that's another way of doing it, just shortcut the chicane altogether as Pedro Acosta gets his braking on for turn 14.
Yeah, and of course it was a very strong home Grand Prix last time out for the factory KTM squad. We saw Pedro Acosta on the podium in the sprint. 4th he was over the line in the Grand Prix, and we've seen the emergence, the return to form of Enea Bastianini. Best KTM results so far in the Grand Prix in Spielberg at 5th. So I'm sure it's a very optimistic pick by our KTM Motorsport director that heads into this Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's find out, because I would like to say Pete joins Jack.
Yeah, he does indeed. We had some great images after that Austrian Grand Prix of Pedro in his box speaking with Paul Trevathan and his team, and I think the quote was, it's not the result we wanted, but definitely the performance, and it was a great turnaround for KTM with those new updates, clearly working Pit, to not only have Pedro up there, but Enea fighting at the front, perhaps looking more like himself. It felt like a positive home Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest highlight for us was, of course, Brno. And then, but this is just a week before your home GP, and before you enjoy that one weekend, of course, you will think already about the next week and you want to repeat. So Spielberg was really, really important for us. First of all, we wanted to have a great home GP and having so many friends and people with us, but then to repeat what we did in Brno on a completely different track than the week before. So it was for us really a crucial moment of the championship to understand if the bike is going in the right direction. Hopefully, I was sure, but hopefully Brno was not the lucky punch. So there was a good base, a new future bike, and this was also working really well in Spielberg. We brought some new updates to Spielberg, bring them in over race weekend, not the most easy thing. That was also working good, and you mentioned it all, to have all riders performing better and getting this team atmosphere that the four riders want to push each other and believing in the bike, and then working on the correct details to make the bike better. Having Pedro finally feel good on the bike and perform on the level where he can perform, but also bringing in air back from this hole where we have been together. So all in all, it's really a really good moment of the project, and I'm so happy for all the team at home in the factory and here on the racetrack, for all the hard work putting in, that we get some results finally.
Do you feel like you're as close to Ducati now as you have been for maybe a couple of seasons?
Yeah, looks like we became closer somehow, and then you look to the names who you want to beat over the last 2 years, and then there is even that extra factor what Mark makes the Ducati package even look stronger than ever before. So I mean, Ducati is doing an amazing job. We look over there, they are the benchmark, but we are really catching up. Looks like we come closer, but now we had 2 great race weekends, and then you can see everybody is performing better. So the whole field is actually coming closer together. It's a strong fight out there, and if you don't perform, you're just nowhere.
After the Austrian Grand Prix, there was a news report out there of the potential split between KTM and Red Bull. Of course, you two have been partners for so long, it feels as though you come as one. Is there any truth to that?
Thanks God not, and I mean, just already thinking about that is like just would be completely crazy. No, we have actually even much better news than this. Just a couple days ago, our contract got renewed with them, and this is such a long-lasting partnership since 2003. Starting in off-road side, we could carry that over to the road racing side, and now if you think back what happened last week without our friends at Red Bull, we just could not manage to keep all the projects alive on that level and keep performing, winning Dakar, winning motocross, supercross races, and still performing in MotoGP. So that partnership for us means much more than a contract, and so yeah, the rumors this week, they were, I don't know, coming from where, but contract is renewed, and we are super happy, and we are not talking about 1 year or this or that. No, it's this long-term partnership. We want to do racing together with our friends in Fuschl, and that's a very, very solid base, and was more important than ever in these very difficult days for us. So also a big thank you from my side to all the Red Bull people. It's an amazing friendship, and we're going to build a lot more success on this partnership.
And that new contract means we'll see Red Bull branded on both the factory bikes and the independent team bikes next year and into the future.
Well, don't ask me too many details at the moment about that, but there is a really strong relationship between us, the factory team, and Red Bull, and all the other things have to shape up, because there is a lot of rumors that some people are interested to buy the tax-free team, but at the moment we also still have a lot of trust in Hervé and his tax-free team, and there is nothing to talk about next year because there is an existing contract between us and Tech3. So there is many things to do first. New contract for manufacturers with Dorna, and then talking to your satellite team. So this is all things a little bit further down the road. At the moment is performance daily and having good partners and friends on the side too. So
I wasn't going to ask about it, but you
what Harry does, but for the moment, honestly speaking, I hope it stays very stable as it is.
excellent news on the new Red Bull deal, and excellent news in terms of performance on track as well, Pete. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Let's enjoy another race weekend.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. As always, once again, another very informative and interesting interview with KTM Motorsport Director Pete Byra. And as far as they're concerned, well, Christmas has come early. They have re-upped their contract then, their long-standing, seemingly endless contract with their Austrian partner Red Bull. So there'll be no Red Bull Honda on the grid next season, as a few rumours have intimated might be the case. Red Bull and KTM in the Grand Prix paddock, it's like strawberries and cream. They just seem to go together, don't they? The perfect match. So you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Pit Byra confirming that into 2026 and beyond, KTM will continue to be backed by their long-term backers and partners, Red Bull.
It's been a bit of a feel-good summer, hasn't it, for KTM as of late? The long-term funding of the team looks like it's firmly in place. Of course, results picking up on track as well, with the brand new front aero fairing making a difference to its riders in Austria, and some good news on the sponsorship front as well. Good news too for Ferdinand Alguer right now, who certainly kept Marc Marquez honest in Austria a week ago, and he's now just knocked the 93 off the top spot.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the best times of the weekend. Of course, we set out, interesting to see what the evolution of the lap times will be throughout the course of proceedings. Be interesting to see, won't it, when these riders really do have to go for the gung-ho time attack mode at the end of this session, just where we will get down to. Michael just been told that he's got Marco Bezzecchi the company. I thought it might be Pedro Acosta that was going to be following the 73. What a shot this is. Just look at Acosta. He's all over the rear tyre at the factory. A brilliant star ahead of him. Acosta has his mojo back, doesn't he? It is much more like the rookie sensation we saw so frequently in 2024. He has hit some form, back-to-back sprint podiums for the Spaniard in Brno and in the Red Bull Ring. Third in the Brno Grand Prix, fourth over the line in Spielberg. These KTM updates, and I think it's fair to say as well, Lewis, a more sort of calmer approach from Acosta. There's been some clear the air talks behind the scenes, not just between himself and KTM boss Pit Byra, who we're just talking to Jack. There's also been discussions, of course, with Red Bull KTM factory team manager Aki Ayo, who knows Acosta probably better than Pedro knows himself, to be honest. Worked together in Moto3 and Moto2. It seems like they're back on an even keel. They're all sort of fighting for the same cause, fighting in the same direction. The old cliche, happy rides are fast ride, that's exactly what Acosta looks like right now.
I'm a firm believer as well. As much as so much of the talk is about how competitive the motorcycles are in MotoGP these days, the rider, of course, has their role to play. Of course, Pedro Acosta is riding for KTM because he believes they can give him a motorcycle that can win. But KTM are also paying Pedro Acosta the big bucks because they feel he's the rider to go out there and beat Marc Marquez in the future, and the two go hand in hand. A fast bike isn't a fast bike without a fast rider on it. So from Pedro Acosta's point of view, totally understand how frustration could have built in the early stage of this season, because he has clearly looking a superior package, but that gap would appear to be closing, and Pedro Acosta certainly riding as well as he has at any stage in 2025, certainly with his head very much in the game as we go into these summer months, and we are certainly seeing the best from 37.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Pedro Acosta has shown in the first part of 2025 he doesn't just hate losing, he absolutely despises it, he detests it. All he's done throughout his racing career his taste nothing but success. Moto3 world champion, the Rookies Cup champion, Moto2 world champion. He has been nothing but an upward spiral in his Grand Prix career, or his racing career, at full stop. So when it hits the buffers, when there are a couple of setbacks at his tender young age, and when you've got the desire, the hunger and the commitment to be the very best, you can just understand why sometimes the emotions and the frustration can get the better of a feisty, fiery character. I like Pedro Acosta. I think he did say that when you've got the fire of KTM and the fire of myself, there are going to be clashes. There are going to be difference of opinions. But now it does seem like we're back on an even keel. The somewhat choppy waters now are all more like smooth sailing, which is rather appropriate to the same next to Lake Balaton.
I said last weekend as well, it's so easy to forget, given how much success he's had as a professional motorcycle racer, that Pedro Acosta is still only 21 years of age. I don't think there are many people either watching or on the racetrack right now who are at the peak of their maturity at the age of 21. Pedro Acosta, as you say, is just accustomed to winning the motorcycle and the racetrack. Every race he competes in has had to get accustomed to changing his expectations over the course of his MotoGP adventure so far, and it's not something that he's been able to do very, very easily so far. But certainly signs on and off track that KTM are moving in the right direction.
Looks like Morbidelli's been off track. Has he been off track? The dirt on those Michelin tyres potentially. There's already been some double trouble for Frankie on day one here in Hungary. Falls at turn 1 and turn 15 this morning.
He's dropped 15 seconds somewhere on this lap. I think we're about to see where he dropped them. Turn number 5, which was where Ralph Fernandez is a pretty bit the dust this morning when it launched itself, and Frankie Morbidelli outbraking himself into the right-handed hairpin.
Yeah, it seems like he's struggling with some of the hard braking zones so far today. As we mentioned, on the deck at turn 1 and turn 15, 2 of 5 real tough braking zones here at Balaton Park. Throw in turn number 5 as well. And you can understand, it's pretty obvious it seems, where Frankie's woes are coming his way so far on practice Friday here. Cleaned off those Michelin tyres, head back under the bubble. Now he gets to attack turn 1 again. This is where he had one of those crashes this morning. Jack Miller just leaving pit lane there on the left-hand side of your picture on the 43 Prima Pramac Yamaha. Miller took a late tumble at turn 12 in FP1. P13 he finished proceedings this morning. At the moment, Miller up into 9th place with a 138.6. It's about 6/10 of a second quicker than what the Aussie mustered this morning.
He is currently the leading Yamaha, with some bit of an irony in that, given all the rumour and innuendo that's going on off track at the moment about Jack Miller's whereabouts for 2026. I mean, it feels like he's always riding with a point to prove. He is Jack Miller. That's just the way his mind is wired up. But on this weekend of all weekends, given all the noise on track, I certainly feel that we're talking about a very fired up Aussie.
Yeah, and having sort of made an initial commitment or some public comments from Yamaha management that they were seem pretty steadfast that they make a decision on the second Prima Pramac Yamaha rider in the summer break. And of course now it tips a long way on the other side about summer sojourn, with still no answer about whether it's going to be Miller, Oliveira or another, possibly Manu Gonzalez, the Moto2 World Championship leader. Yeah, this is irking Miller, as you can understand. He feels like he's done enough to get another crack on an M1 next year. Feels like he's still got plenty to offer at MotoGP and also Yamaha as well. But I guess it's out of his hands. All he can do is try and show his speed, show his potential out on circuit, and then hope the call goes his way. But yeah, fair to say, when he spoke to the media yesterday, it's fairly obvious that his patience is rather thin right now. What was the message from Miller? It was pretty clear. If you want me, you want me. If you don't, you don't. Yeah, I'm not really happy with the sort of stall in negotiations or stall in the decision-making process.
Jack Miller not one to always take the diplomatic route. He says what he means and he means what he says. Whenever he's got a microphone or a dictaphone in front of his face, he is a straight shooter. Jack Miller will feel that he's demonstrated already over the course of this season with Prima Pramac Yamaha that not only has he got plenty lots to offer in terms of his speed, but also his expertise and his knowledge as Yamaha look to develop a brand new configuration of engine into the future.
Liking very much the work so far this afternoon of the world champion Martin, fifth quickest at the moment with a 138.397. Done some early work as the Martin 8 on the soft rear tyre with that 138.3. That's already about 6/10 of a second quicker than anything he managed in this morning session as well. So as he builds belief, builds confidence, and really does start to get his head around what you need to get the best out of the Imperial RSGP. He's coming, no doubt about it. He is coming. I do wonder whether too long into this. Some good tracks. He was always strong in the second half of the season, wasn't he? Martin, you know how good he is in Catalonia. Misano, he's won Grand Prix there before. Take always strong. Andanica, Philippi. When you look at the races that are coming up on the calendar, yeah, there are tracks where you do feel that already Jorge Martin is probably penciled in. Yeah, if things go my way there, if I'm healthy and fit, could be in the podium battle, if not better. Good to see him back close to the front, where he belongs, of course, in MotoGP. Now then, Alex Marquez's super impressive early title challenges. Just stalled somewhat, really. I think it's fair to say, although he was on the podium in the Austrian Grand Prix sprint last weekend, he's missed the podium in the last two main Grand Prix. Fermin Aldeguer was absolutely sensational, wasn't he, last weekend in Austria? So high hopes for the pair of them coming to this inaugural Hungarian Grand Prix at Balaton. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Michaela, the senior judge.
Yeah, we've got to touch on Fermin Aldeguer first after that remarkable performance last Sunday, Michaela. We were speaking to Frankie Carcetti afterwards and said, looking at his rhythm at the end of the sprint, they knew they had an opportunity, but he didn't expect a result like that. I mean, for a rookie to find that rhythm in the final half of the race, just how impressive a performance was it from him?
Yeah, I would like to say, first of all, that we put anyway a light blue line inside the park permit always. And this is the things. And of course, we are from the beginning really impressed in the talent that Fermin put on track, show on track. And we know that in MotoGP we always have to put all together to make the result. And there is a lot of good things that coming from the data, learning also from the Friday, because it's always struggling for him to start a Friday with a MotoGP bike. But we analyze the first part of the season when he find a lot of tricky conditions. So he already ride in all the conditions, and he's still learning and learning every time new things on a MotoGP. We know that he is faster, but we have to continue to work like this because the result is coming. Already 4 podiums, so a lot of work to do again, but we are very happy.
Throughout pre-season and the start of the year as well, you did so much work with Fermin on used tyres, and I imagine for a rookie that was difficult not to see his name at the top of the timesheet and to just try and tell him for the long term this is the right way to go. How tough was that to just keep him working and not worry about trying to see his name in the top 5, the top 10?
Yeah, it's like this because as a rider want to always go in front to see his name on top of the list, but I think that the main work is to keep also the feet on the ground, to work every time in a focus in a team. So with the riding side, with the braking, with the acceleration, with the electronics, with all the things, and finally the instruction is to try to put always all together, step by step. So it's not easy there, but Fermin is a young guy, only 20 years old, but he's more clever and he understands these things that will come his time for sure. And already he makes me very proud of him.
Just finally on Alex, this feels like a big weekend. There's no injury, there's no penalty, there's an opportunity just to go out and ride and try and pick up a big result and just steady the ship a little bit.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Michele Massini, as he pointed out. Yes, it's a very common sight in 2025, isn't it, to see one of those blue Gresini Ducatis in Parc Ferme, both on Saturdays and Sundays. I have to say, the 54 of Aldeguer pretty much has done everything that has been asked of him so far in 2025. He hasn't really been jumping off that GP24 with any kind of regularity. He's getting a lot of seat time, building experience, building knowledge, honing his skills on these 300 horsepower MotoGP machines. 2 sprint podiums, 2 Grand Prix podiums, including that career best second place last time out in Austria, where at one point we really did feel like he was going to chase down Marc Marquez. Class ride, showing clearly why Ducati was so anxious to be fairly aggressive in the rider market when they went and picked him up before a wheel had been turned in anger in last year's Moto2 World Championship. Didn't really go his way, was it? Too much pressure on his shoulders heading into 2024. I mean, halfway through last year when his Moto2 title challenge was sort of not really getting any serious momentum, and there were questions about whether Ducati had jumped the gun, whether they'd gone too early at signing Aldeguer. Well, they're not silly, are they? Ducati management, Gigi Dall'Igna, Davide Tarnozzi and co, they clearly saw something special in Aldeguer. Fair play to him, already is repaying their faith and some.
And even the limited crashes he has had this season, he's generally learned from them. Think back to Austin when he was chasing rapidly through to essentially a top 4, top 5 finish on that occasion, crashed in the latter stages, learned very quickly from that. And when myself and Jack caught up with his crew chief, Franco Carcelli, after the flag, following the second place he took in Austria last weekend, it was notable, to ask Frankie about his performance-related races and his ability to manage a rear tyre through to the end of the race. And Frankie said it was something they really have drilled into Fermin throughout a lot of this season about the way that he manages his tyres through a Grand Prix, which in some respects has contributed to Aldeguer not potentially qualifying as well as he might have done. We haven't seen him on the front row of the grid so far in MotoGP, perhaps not exploiting the benefits of some brand new Michelin tyres, but he certainly exploits them the older they get.
Yeah, second quickest in this session. He has just set his best tyre practice, a 1:38.049. Yeah, of course, there are people who are going to say, well, he's on the best, or one of the best engineered motorcycles in Grand Prix history. The proven, undisputed race-winning pedigree of the GP24. The motorcycle that carried Jorge Martin to world title glory last year. But it's a real feather in his cap. We can't understate just how impressive it is when you've got Marc Marquez and all the other Ducati riders saying, well, the guy that's quickest on worn tyres in Ducati at the end of races is Aldeguer, which, when you think he's, what, 13 rounds into his MotoGP campaign, just shows he is smooth like butter with that right hand on the throttle. He's now the second closest challenger to Marc, as he was last time out in Spielberg. Not much between the two Spaniards, 8 thousandths of a second.
And we will see as the second half of this session unfolds when we do truly get into time attack mode, but certainly the evidence of this session so far is that Marc Marquez's prediction was correct and the field would close in on him as the day unfolded. Marc Marquez's advantage was considerable for a lot of this morning's session. At the moment, it is only 8 thousandths over a second. And Pedro Acosta, who we're now looking at on screen, he's now also got to within a tenth of Marc Marquez at the top. At the moment, less than a tenth covers the top 3, and 7 tenths covers the top 10.
As it stands, it's Mir that is now leading the Honda Challenge. He's 8th on the timesheets. We're just picking up LCR's Joan Zarco. He's currently in 11th place, as you can see on the screen. This is going to be a potential TV lap from the 35-year-old. Tracking through some of the really tiny twisty sections of this Balaton course on the number 5 machine. Over the line he goes. Look at that graphic, 16 riders within 1 second. Zarco remains in 11th spot. It's Binder who's just on the wrong side of that 1 second, down in 17th place. He's just a whisker ahead of Quattararo, Polispargaro, Renzo Paul Ryagur, who's having a bit of a baptism of fire here at Balaton. Japanese rider down in 21st place with 1:39.748.
Good line in Bastianini, by the way. He's on a very strong lap at the moment. Halfway around, we're going to pick up the 23 out of turn 11. Breaking hard for 12. Soft rear tyre in the back of that KTM, and at the moment it looks like an Bastianini is making very good use of it.
Yeah, maybe just trying to throw in a early banker back here is the
lap's not going to have an outtouch, but it might not be a bad strategy at all. I think one thing we're going to be talking about a lot in the final 29 minutes is traffic. Of course, with 21 riders all out there as Fleming Albuquerque gets turn 15 wrong towards the end of the lap, and he was on course to potentially go top. 21 riders put around the 4.075-kilometre circuit, which has 17 corners crammed into it. If you arrive into one of those chicanes with a lot of traffic in the way, it's going to completely destroy your lap. So not only getting a clean lap together, but getting a clear lap together is going to be all important.
Annoyed with himself there, wasn't he? Albuquerque, as you can see from the onboard footage. Marco Bezzecchi putting together an exceptional lap on the factory Aprilia. Has started to find some top form once again in qualifying as Bezzecchi. He really did rip up the form book last time out in Spielberg. Aprilia never come close really to a Grand Prix podium in the Stirling Mountains. Well, he set that record straight. He led for 19 laps of the main Grand Prix before he succumbed to the late surges from both Mark and from Albuquerque. Up to 9th. Fastest lap of the session this from Bez, 1:38.668. He's getting a lot of information, some good data out there on those. We'll see what he's on the medium front of the soft rear tyre, so this is good race data being collected by the Italian.
And all the time that Bezzecchi lost was in that third sector, which takes you from the run out of 8. The third sector starts just as you're braking for the left and right chicane of turns 9 and 10, then out of 11 through 12 and 13. Pedro Acosta has now made his way through the final corner, turn 17. And is this going to take us into the 137 for the first time this afternoon? Not quite, but Acosta does take top spot.
Albuquerque sure is going to find a 1:37. He made a mess of his previous lap. Not through this final sector he's going to come. Through 17 he goes. Albuquerque they're now on the power. Over the line he goes. And it is the first 1:37 of the afternoon. Fastest time of the day so far. A 1:37.793. And that, of course, we have to just put the asterisk next to his name. It is on a brand new medium rear tyre, so he's got that nice up to working temperature. Probably feels like he should have had a 1:37.7 on the previous lap before he got it wrong, but head back down, and now it's Albuquerque. That's our quickest rider so far on day one here in Balaton.
So one quiet from Pecco Bagnaia so far. He's in 12th place on 1:38.776. He was only on a 39.3 this morning, but they certainly have other priorities down there at the factory Ducati squad. We've seen it in the past, haven't we, with Pecco? He's perhaps had other things on his mind for a lot of Friday than actual outright fast lap times. That's all well and good if when you do go to time attack mode, you still get through, and that's the question that Pecco Bagnaia has got to try and answer in the next 26 minutes.
Martin out braking himself then into that first corner. So Albuquerque, one of only 2 riders then so far that's found laps in the 37s. Balaton's quicker than what we saw from Mark this morning. Martin still inside that top 6. If he gets anywhere near the kind of explosive one-lap pace we saw for 3-4 years on a Ducati, well, Martin's going to be in the mix for the front row moving forward into the latter stages of what's been an injury-ravaged 2025. Bastianini just flung in the third 1:37 of the weekend. We always felt like the beast was going to show up here this weekend. Of course, with no previous references, no previous experience of a Ducati around this new Balaton circuit. Just like in Brno, the beast is back at the Tati on 37.930. Do you know what? I think there's going to be a few people that might have a nail down as a bit of a dark horse, a bit of an outsider for the podium here this weekend.
We've got the babyface of Balaton leading, Fabio Albuquerque, the beast of Balaton right behind him in an A at Bastianini. Acosta third from Marc Marquez. Fabio Di Gianantonio, who's just had a lap cancelled for exceeding track limit, sits 5th. Alex Marquez has just recently gone 6th on a 38.3. Then it's Martin, Mir, Bezzecchi and Miller, who ensures that as we sit to you at the moment, all manufacturers do have a rider inside the top 10. Miller completing that top 10 on board the Yamaha that he wants to stay on for next season.
Some precious little so far this morning and this afternoon of Fabio Quartararo, really 11th this morning, 18th so far this afternoon, able to find a 1:38 so far in his practice session as Quartararo. This is just Marquez locked into his race prep. Used medium front, used medium rear tyre. Look at this, he's still running a very rapid and consistent pace. Could be firing himself up in the P2 here, Mark. Be his first 1:37 of the afternoon. Will be tight. Comes out to turn 17, short drag to the finish line. Of course, tight, not even close. 1:37.753, mullered at that final sector. Brilliant by Marquez. Lap 17, best we've seen of day one.
And that was not on new tyres for Marc Marquez, just underlining just how much performance and potential he still has up his sleeve. He's so difficult to beat, isn't he, on the current form he's at, and he's maybe not the best version of Marc Marquez, as he answered yesterday, but certainly the most rounded version of Marc Marquez.
That was not the normal angle of your front tyre going through turn 12 and 13. He is pushing. This is all out attack, isn't it? All out aggression as always. And from the 93, he'd already lost the front on that, and he lost the rear as he grabbed a handful of throttle on the exit of one of the chicanes. But yeah, Pecco Bagnaia can only look on, as he has had to do pretty much for the whole of 2025, and just sit in the shadows, really. Austin, one of the rare highlights of what's been a real tough 2025 so far for Bagnaia. Missed the podium in the last 2 Grand Prix. It's 10 rounds now since he was victorious, and as mentioned, that was a gift in Kota. They've just clipped the curb on one side there.
To the gravel altogether. Thought we'd see a little bit more of that in this session, given the wind that's picking up, so much so that we can barely keep our commentary box door closed at the moment.
Well, at least we know that when he's on the dirt bike at the VR46 ranch in Tavulia, it's time well spent for Marco Bezzecchi, because that was some impressive off-roading, fishtailing on that factory Aprilia, as he kept the throttle open going through the gravel there. Well, did you work, Marco? Nice one. Luca Marini on that new Honda chassis. Let's see where this lap might take Marini on a new medium rear tyre. On arrives before they go into time attack mode on the soft rear. Just throwing in some new medium rubber. Sort of just two-thirds of the way through this hour-long session. That's put Marini up into 6th place. So once again, just as he was this morning, he now is our top Honda rider.
Yeah, all the riders did go through a soft rear tyre at the start of this session, so perhaps one fewer tyre available to them at the end than would ordinarily have. And of course, we would expect everybody to go for a soft rear tyre over the sprint distance that comes tomorrow afternoon as well. 3 p.m. local time, of course, for the first sprint around this Balaton Park circuit,
which Marco Bezzecchi is dissecting right now for his factory Aprilia crew. Where can the Italian pick up time? Where can he hope to take his lap time when he's in or on the soft rubber at the end of this session? Back out on circuit is Bagnaia at the moment. Fair to say he's dipped under the radar on day one, down in 14th place, so 138.776 is the best from Pecco. He was only 15th on the rankings at the end of FP1 this morning. 139 this morning was the best from Bagnaia. Over the line he goes.
we generally see from him, don't we, that he's said all season, I lack the confidence to really put this bike on its side, put it all on the line on the way into corners. And if you're struggling under braking, you're not going to particularly enjoy life, I don't think, around this Balaton Park circuit. Into turn 1, into turn 5, turn 9, 12 and 15, all fairly big stops on board this factory Ducati, and you feel that rather than play to Pecco Bagnaia's strengths, you feel it might expose some of his 2025 weaknesses.
Yeah, and it all unravelled pretty quickly, didn't it, last time out in Austria? A really strong Friday. He said he felt for the first time, really, all season. He was in the game, he was in business. He felt like he was going to potentially go to fight Mark for the victory. A track where he'd gone undefeated 3 years in a row, but just did not pan out like that at all. I mean, we know he's had season-long gremlins with a lack of front confidence, but it was also adding to his issues. No rear grip that came his way in Spielberg, and once again, there's more mistakes on the front end. Christian Gammarini, Gammarini's been able to burn some serious midnight oil so far this year, turning that GP25 upside down, left, right, you name it. I'm not sure there are too many options that they've not tried so far in 2025 to give Bagnaia some kind of feeling.
Didn't have it on the way into turn 9 on that lap, went straight across the chicane in the started the third sector, so this was a first attempt at Bagnaia lifting himself up the order. It didn't work, although we saw from the tyre information that you might have a relatively fresh rear tyre in, but a well-used front tyre for Pecco Bagnaia, so perhaps his attention hasn't turned to time attacks just yet.
He just picked up 8 points last weekend in Spielberg. Not good enough. Not good enough for a factory Ducati rider. He knows that. Ducati know that. They've just got to sort of get their heads together and try and work a way out of this hole that he finds himself in. Recently he's been re-watching old races. It's once again, as he tries to get the Ducati stopped, the rear sort of kicks in the air as he grips on entry, just throws a whole load of weight over the front tyre. I mean, it's quite remarkable really how in the space of just a few months, what was, without any question, Pecco Bagnaia's most potent weapon, which was braking, stopping and then corner entry. The corner entry phase on that Ducati was where, how many Ducati riders said that's where he was unmatched, he was on a different level. Well, what was his biggest weapon is now his weakest point, really. And that's why we're seeing Bagnaia suffering so much. 55 points behind Alex in the battle for second place in the championship. He's got to start looking over his shoulder as well, as Marco Bezzecchi starts to find some form. And third place, all of a sudden, started to look a little bit vulnerable as far as Pecco's concerned.
16th at the moment in this session. If you're outside the top 10 on the grid here, you are right in the danger zone. At the start of the sprint tomorrow afternoon and at the start of the Grand Prix on Sunday. If you watch the World Superbikes action here a few weeks or so ago, you've seen a lack of drama, particularly into that first couple of corners at the start as they try to feed 21 MotoGP bikes to what is quite a narrow sequence of racetrack. And Bagnaia won't want to be heading through that particular part of the racetrack in the middle of the pack tomorrow afternoon in the sprint. And as he's also pointed out, with the issues he's suffering from and the lack of confidence to really attack the corners, not only can he not overtake, but also he can't stop himself from being overtaken.
Yeah, he's been roughed up, he's been bullied, hasn't he, so often late, and as Bagnaia, just situations, scenarios we're not accustomed to seeing from the Italian over the last 3 or 4 years. Joan Mir then, well, you can see from the graphic, this is time attack engaged as far as the Spaniard's concerned. Fresh front and rear rubber. Chewing on the old thumbnail there, just everybody I think in Ducati searching for answers, searching to get Bagnaia back at the front. The problem is, it's when your teammates on the other side of the garage who've just absolutely destroyed, not just Pecco, but destroying the field completely. I have to say though, Mark is by far head and shoulders the standout rider on that GP25. And they told, obviously speaking to Jack this morning, said, perhaps not at the extreme high level we saw from the GP24 last year. Mark is just able to make anything work. I mean, how many times we say down here that you could put Marc Marquez in a 3-wheeled shopping trolley and he's still getting around this Balaton Park circuit quicker than anybody else.
Well, once upon a time, I think they said something very similar about Fabio Quartararo. He's certainly done that about the Yamaha so far this season. The pole positions he's been able to pick up so far this season have been truly extraordinary, but at the moment, only Pol Espargaro is behind the 2021 world champion.
Didn't expect this. I mean, we knew that Austria was brutal for all 4 Yamahas, but for Fabio Quartararo, still obviously doing a lot of work on warm tyres here. 23 laps he's done on that medium, really, which is only 3 laps shy a full race distance here on Sunday in the main Grand Prix. Well, is there any signs, any shoots of recovery in this practice session as far as Bagnaia is concerned? Let's go down to Jack.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Bagnaia, I have to say. I mean, what you guys are explaining, those TV images of him trying to break into turn 1, he was then just repeating to Gigi Dall'Igna and Christian Gabarini, just indicating with his hands. As soon as he starts to brake and that rear tyre lifts up, it snaps back in such an erratic way that it's so difficult for Bagnaia to control. I think earlier in the year, Neil Hodgson at TNT Sports did a great analysis video that went out on social media that showed just the difference breaking into turn 1. That we've seen through Bagnaia from the GP24 to GP25 used to be able to just control that rear slide so magnificently that, as you guys said, gave him such an advantage over everybody else. But now, 12 months on, as
lots of questions and no answers, as Jack just mentioned. Miguel Oliveira, we are now starting to see time attacks incoming for the first time in 33 years. Hungarian MotoGP fans are getting to see prototype MotoGP bikes being thrown around a racetrack at full power. Oliveira then, at the moment, on course to just move on the fringes of that all-important top 10. Currently down in 19th place, 138.9, the best from a Portuguese rider. O-Line Oliveira comes 12th into the mid-138s for the number 88.
Frustration for Brad Binder on that lap. He was on course to potentially move himself into the top 10, but he took a shortcut through the chicane at turn 8 and 9, so he didn't improve on that lap. Pedro Acosta, though, looks like he might be about to, as he now makes his way to that very chicane, and he's a quarter of a second up on Marc Marquez.
This is the Pedro Acosta 2024, isn't it? He is back. All of the early season dramas, all of his... Well, let's be honest, if you believe all the reports and all the insiders, he was seriously pushing for an exit out of KTM before the end of his contract in 2026. He's getting his head down now, he's knuckling down and getting on with it, cracking on, and it's impressive this from Acosta, likewise from Oliveira. Acosta really is pushing the front end of that KTM now, halfway through this final split. Through 17 he goes hard on the gas now, just trying to control the wheel on the exit of that final corner. Acosta into P1, that is a brilliant lap. Sideways he goes, snaking that rear tyre into turn 1, 137.289. Acosta says, catch me if you can, guys.
He's got a KTM that he enjoys riding again, and boy, is it good to say that. Here comes Paul Espargaro, who's also improving. Brad Binder looks like, well, I was about to say, looks like he's got his second flying lap right, but again he's made a mistake. Third sector for Brad Binder this time. He's still nailed down in 18th place, but the speed is clearly in the RC16.
Such an easy mistake to make when you're on the limit, you're on the ragged edge, you're pushing for a hot lap, and it's so easy if you just miss your braking marker by what, half a metre going into to 1, to 5, 9, 12 and 15. It's going to completely destroy your lap time. Paul Espargaro. Now, okay, yes, we know he was here on the factory KTM a few weeks ago, testing and cutting laps here in Balaton. Nevertheless, a 37.8 from Paul has fired him up into 4th place, getting better and better, isn't it, as far as Acosta's concerned, certainly for Frankie Morbidelli. Some responses by the Italian, on the floor twice he was in FP1 this morning. That's more likely Frankie up into P2.
KTM's first, 5th and 6th at the moment. Jorge Martin now gets himself up in the 3rd place on a 37.7, which just puts Marc Marquez's 37.7 itself into some sort of context. He might have to improve yet upon that. Don't worry though, Marquez fans, he is in the process of doing so. Here comes Pedro Acosta then, who might be threatening a 36 if he gets this final sector right. A 37 flat, and he's now 6/10 clear.
Yeah, we are going to have to wait too long for a 36, are we? Paul Travathan likes what he sees on the screen. Those Michelin tyres, new medium front for Mark, soft rear for the 93. Huge spelled trouble as far as the competition is concerned.
Here's Bagnaia, who's in 18th place, and I think he's going to lift himself a million miles on the field from where he currently sits. As he comes through the 3rd sector, look, he's already in the thick end of a second adrift. As Acosta's thinking about doing 36s, Bagnaia will do well to be in the 37s here.
Right now, Fabio Quartararo is at the rear of the pack. He is out now on fresh rubber. Paul Espargaro briefly back into P4. Alex has just gone up into P3. Bagnaia then creeps into the top 10 with a 138.164. Fabio Quartararo, who is now in time attack mode, moves up from 21st to 10. That's a lot more like we know the factory Yamaha star is capable of, although Bagnaia's stint in 10th was very short-lived. Likewise Quartararo's, because now it's Marco Bezzecchi who's pinched that 10th place away from the factory Yamaha rider.
Clearly you can get minimum 2, if not 3 good laps out of this soft rear tyre, because Acosta continuing to push on. Well, he finally does run out of space on the outside of the penultimate chicane. That was through turns 12 and 13. Pecco Bagnaia was in the top 10 for about a split second, wasn't he, before he was bumped back down to 12th place. Still 1.1 seconds off the pace of Pedro Acosta.
Well, he made some comments Max post-race in Spielberg when he was a bit hot under the collar. He was quickly dispatched to our TV broadcaster set, where he was asked in the heat of the moment some questions about life on that factory Ducati. Fair to say he did come loose a little bit on the current situation. He has sort of engaged reverse gear on some of those comments, but at the moment there's just nothing really to slap a smile back on the face. Bagnaia, how we go at the moment, is in 7th. And a quick look at Enea Bastianini, he's still down in 9th place. Gian Antonio's taking a shortcut as well. And there are so many opportunities around this Balaton circuit to get sucked into a mistake. Yeah, I think the frustration is starting to get the better of the 63. This is a replay of him now. Oh, it's traffic.
Yeah, it's traffic. Alex Marquez over to his left, and then it's Jack Miller just over to the right-hand side. They've had a little bit of previous, haven't they, Pecco Bagnaia and Alex Marquez, although I'm not sure that's Pecco's biggest problem right now.
Yeah, they got history, no question. Cassie minds back certainly to Mugello in a rather high-profile incident.
Right on the apex there, wasn't he, as Bagnaia came round the left-hander of turns 3 and 4.
Miller had also got his left-hand out, looking back to Alex going, come on, mate, you're on the racing line there. So it looks like he's certainly disturbed both Miller and Bagnaia on potential hot laps. Don't worry. Hawkeye Simon Crafar, the F1 MotoGP stewards, will be giving a very close eye on that one.
The irony is that Michele Massini already said to Jack earlier in this session, we're happy that Alex can get his head down and focus without any penalties. He might have been a touch premature.
Well, that's what he said himself, wasn't he, yesterday? We spoke to media. I'm just looking for a clean and normal weekend. Because since Assen, he's been carrying pain and discomfort in that damaged left wrist. And then a long lap penalty coming his way in the Red Bull ring after his controversial contact with Joan-Mir in Brno. Might be in a bit of hot water once again here, Alex, for that one. Clearly frustrating Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia. No frustrations, no problems right now though for Acosta, who's looking great here. 137.601. Surely we are going to get a 36. Have to, you feel, as Bagnaia just has to regroup. Regaining the composure, just getting some instructions there from his coach, Christian Gammarini.
He needs to find a quarter of a second as Bagnaia just to get into the top 10 at this stage. That's what he needs to get up on terms with Luca Marini, and then a second and change to get on target with Pedro Acosta, who's got 3.5 tenths to be fair over Marc Marquez in second place. That shows you how special Acosta's 37.0 was, but there are plenty of riders here outside the top 10 who, on reputation, ought not to be. Bezzecchi 11th, Quartararo 12th, Bagnaia 13th, Di Giannantonio's been shuffled all the way back to 15th now. All riders who ordinarily would expect to be in the top 10.
Feels like a false P21 right now as far as Binder's concerned on the factory KTM. Replicating factory racing at the moment, bookending the timesheets here. Acosta fastest, Binder at the back end of the timesheets, but of course twice on that first stint on soft tyres. Binder was well set to force his way into the top 10 when he made key mistakes into the chicanes. So that incident, as we suspected, will be closely looked at by the F1 MotoGP stewards. Pecco Bagnaia, Jack Miller and Alex Marquez all involved. It looked like clearly the wrong parties were both 63 and 43. 73, I'm going to notice them after that one.
It's generally a grid penalty that you see if riders are slow online. Frankie Morbidelli's had a few of those already, hasn't he, in recent times? So potentially Alex Marquez in a bit of hot water for that, but we'll have access to all sorts of camera angles, the data down in the steward's office to make a fully informed decision. Pecco Bagnaia, as I said earlier on, traffic was going to be an issue in this practice session in the latter stages, and we've seen already some graphic proof of it.
Let's have a look at this replay then. We're on board with Alex.
So he's already seen someone up ahead of him, which has forced him to back off. You can see a rider just over to the left, just had a picture of one of the KTM. So Alex Marquez has already rolled off of his lap, and then as he looks behind, he's got to make sure that he stays out of the way. Look, he's gesturing to Miller saying, I've already been held up, and Jack's now saying, no, you've got to keep pushing.
Yeah, there's a lot of frank exchange of views and opinions out there right now, isn't there?
It's Paul Espargaro, isn't it? I think on the inside of the racetrack, who Alex was preoccupied by, and then Pecco Bagnaia came across it all in the middle of turn 3.
That one it will be sorted out in the steward's office without any question. As mentioned, yet Simon Craigbar has all of the pictures that we see and plenty more with the CCTV that there's dozens and dozens of screens at the race direction that the stewards have access to. So they will be far more informed than what we are when it comes to making the final decision. Of course, keeping an eye on our social media channels for any potential penalties coming the way of those involved. What could be coming the way of Pedro Acosta is a red alert from Marc Marquez, who's once again super rapid on that factory Ducati. Fabio Quartararo, well, he's finally better late than never coming to the party here in Balaton. That's more like it. A 137.671 has flung Fabio up into P4. Surely that potentially good enough for a direct place in Q2. Martin briefly started alongside him or behind him in 5th place, because now he's chopping and changing constantly. Morbidelli's gone up to 3rd. No, sorry, Bastianini now is up in 3rd. Luca Marini was briefly 5th. Now he's back in 6th place. So Fabio Quartararo, who was 4th 30 seconds ago, is now in danger of being pushed out of the top 10.
Because Alex Marquez has now gone up into 2nd place, taking his mind off any potential investigation and sending 137.3. So it's Crescini 2 and 3. Bookending them are KTM's of Acosta and Bastianini. Morbidelli 5th from Marc Marquez, now 6th. Pol Espargaro 7th from Marini, Quartararo and Jorge Martin. Joan Mir falls slightly short in 11th. Does Pedro Acosta, your session leader, has gone down, and that looks like the outside of turn 2.
Yeah, turn 2, that's where the yellow flag marker is. He's hobbling away there, that foot is Acosta. And of course, that's going to bring out those yellow flags. So a bit of late drama here for the rider who's fastest out on the circuit. And I was going to say there's the yellow flag markers at turn 11 as well. So Zarco has gone down.
Yeah, this is bad news for Pecco Bagnaia, who's going to hit those yellow flags very shortly as he looks to finally string a competitive lap together. But he can't once again, straight through the chicane.
Bagnaia staring down the barrel of Q1 here, isn't
One more shot, Pecco.
90 seconds of the session remaining at the moment. Marc Marquez only 6th fastest. Pedro Acosta might get away with that spot. We know that Acosta's through into Q2 with a 137.06. But how crucial will the Acosta Zarco spills prove to be for so many others?
Traffic in Bastianini's face there. This is the Acosta crash. He was trying to go with Marc Marquez, and we're rounding turn 2. The rear comes round on Pedro Acosta, and it is going to throw him over the top.
Nasty, low gear, slow speed, high side. Some of those sometimes they're worse than a sort of a high speed loss at the rear tyre, because you really do get pinged up into the air. Look at this. Oh, that rear steps out from underneath Acosta. That's a painful one. He's going to wake up battered and bruised tomorrow, isn't he? Pedro Acosta trying to go with a 93 of Mark ahead of him. It stepped out and then it just continued to spin, and then it gripped and pinged him over the handlebars. Brutal, real vicious one that for Acosta.
He did have some momentary changes. Marc Marquez did briefly go up into 2nd place, but he had that lap time cancelled because of the yellow flags for Zarco's crash. So he's now pushing on his final lap. But it is all or nothing here for Pecco Bagnaia. It is Q2 or bust for Pecco on this final lap at Balaton Park.
Yeah, some of our most recent world champions in the danger zone. Martin 10th, Quartararo 9th, Bagnaia 14th. Last 3 MotoGP world champions, of course, all in the danger zone here.
Binder's also trying to launch a late rescue mission. He's fastest through the 1st sector, but he's at a poor 2nd sector. Binder still nailed down in P20.
What about Bagnaia? Acosta makes his way to the back of the factory KTM garage. Despite the late high side, despite his late drama, he's easing into Q2. Will he be the fastest rider, though, on our day 1 here in Hungary? Marco Bezzecchi. We'd be remiss not to mention him, of course. Pole position last time out in Austria, albeit from 18th place on Friday. He was well outside of Q2 on Friday yesterday.
This is going to be so close for Pecco Bagnaia. It is touch and go. Marc Marquez, with no yellow flags to worry about, does go back up into 2nd place. Marini takes 8th place on a 37.5. Bezzecchi's taking the checkered flag. Bagnaia is about to.
Bagnaia down to 15th. Over the line he goes. 13th for Bagnaia. So 2 of our star Italians in MotoGP. Already 2 winners so far in 2025. Marco Bezzecchi and Pecco Bagnaia in Q1.
And one world champion might be about to dump another out. The 2020 world champion Mir goes in. 2024 world champion Martin dumped out.
Quartararo clinging on engines in MotoGP, the gap between Acosta and Mark at the top of the timesheets is just 6,000ths of a second. Poor old Jorge Martin as it stands right now. Other late followers coming from the Gian Antonio. No, there isn't. Jorge Martin has missed out on a direct spot in Q2 by less than the width of the front tyre. Quartararo pinches it, and I mean pinch it, by 1,000ths of a second. A relief for Quartararo and Yamaha. A pain, late pain for poor old Martin.
Well, those who question the competitiveness of the Ducati GP25 have got some more ammunition. Only Marc Marquez gets it through. Bagnaia and Gian Antonio outside the top 10. No Aprilias make their way through either. All of them out.
Well, it was a bruising, if ultimately fast and successful practice session for Pedro Acosta. That was how he ended the session, flying through the air here at the Balaton Park circuit. But now he's made his way back to the KTM garage. He will see himself fastest on day one here in Hungary. A 137.06 one from Acosta. We didn't quite get the 136 we were expecting. That was all down to some late yellow flag drama for Acosta and Zarco's late crash. Johan Zarco's tumble at turn 11 turned out to be really costly for the Frenchman. He was 20th, ahead of former LCR Honda rider Alex Rins, who's had another forgettable Friday, unfortunately, on the factory Yamaha. So let's regroup after that dramatic conclusion to practice here in the Michelin Grand Prix of Hungary. Pedro Acosta, fastest despite his big late high side at turn 2. Through into Q2 go Mark and Alex Marquez, although Alex Marquez will be potentially, along with Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia, called to the F1 MotoGP stewards to talk about their late incident. Aldeguer 4th, Bastianini brilliant on the KTM in 5th, ahead of Morbidelli, Mia, Polispan, Luca Marini and Fabio Quartararo. 3 KTMs directly through to Q2, but just listen to some of these names that are outside of the top 10 and going through to what is a heavyweight Q1 tomorrow. Reigning world champion Martin out by 1,000th of a second. Marco Bezzecchi on the factory Aprilia, both factory Aprilias dumped in Q1. Bez, 3 podiums in the last 4 Grand Prix, 12th fastest. Fabio Di Gianantonio, already a 2-time podium finisher this season. He was 13th, ahead of Pecco Bagnaia. Brad Binder 15th, Iagura 16th. More woes for Prima Pamat Yamaha as Miller and Oliveira 17th and 18th, respectively. But it's a spicy, it's a juicy Q1 you're not going to want to miss tomorrow morning. It will feature Martin, Bezzecchi and Bagnaia.
And Fabio Di Gianantonio and Brad Binder. There are so many strong names. Johan Zarco down in P20, of course, after his late crash. So there's so many heavyweights who have had rather underwhelming experiences at Balaton Park. But a shout out to this man. Yes, he's tested here for a day, but that advantage will only have got him so far. Paul Espargaro, more than just a substitute, a super sub today for Maverick Vinales. He's into Q2.
It's not easy what he's doing. And you know, sorts of clicking from test rider mode, clicking from pundit mode. I mean, normally his daytime job is a TV commentator with our Spanish colleagues Dazzle. Brilliant to see Paul getting through to Q2. He's a class act, and he always has been, always will. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Hervé Poncharowa-Jack.
Yeah, for a second I thought Paul was even going to come and give me a hug there, Hervé. I mean, what a performance that is. A test rider, a retired rider, but he's into Q2.
Yeah, you know, we knew he would be fast Friday morning because he had some test here, but we didn't expect him to be, you know, that fast. Still, I have to tell you that he's testing a few things. This is why he was a bit down at the beginning of the afternoon session. But no, he's showing speed. He was already really quick with us in the Czech Republic, and no, really proud, you know, to have them two, you know, Paul. Of course, as you said, almost retired riders, direct Q2 access, and Enea, who is also having fun and enjoying both the track and the KTM RC16 on that track. So, you know, tonight we were happy to.
Long may it continue. Great start to the weekend.
Thank you.
We're a Tech 3, not a happy team. Come on, Hervé. Great job. What a Friday here in Hungary for the French squad. Bastianini, 5th fastest. We saw that coming after a very strong start this morning. Fair play to Enea, a 137.5 4.15, gets him comfortably through into Q2. This was the late drama that came the way of Johan Zarco, washing out the front there, going through turn 11, pushing hard to try and get himself directly into Q2. Didn't work out. Zarco ends day one down in P20. We just saw there on screens as well, Jorge Martin cracked a smile, outwardly at least, looking pretty happy with his 137.672, but there has to be more than a little tinge of regret at having missed out on a place in Q2 by just a thousandth of a second. Missing out on that Q2 spot, it can compromise and change your entire weekend. Not over, of course, he can still get through in Q1, and he's going to be one of the favourites to get through as well. Tough to call those two riders that are going to get out of that Q1 session. Not having to worry about that, thankfully, is Fermin Aldeguer. Yeah, a thumbs up, job well done, fourth quickest for the Spielberg star.
He's a genuine threat here, isn't he, this weekend? No question about that. Strong all day on that Rossini Ducati, of course. Keep an eye on MotoGP social media channels for news on whether his teammate is likely to face any kind of sanction. What we saw involving Pecco Bagnaia, Jack Miller, and it looked like one or two others in the middle of turns 2 and 3. Plenty of headlines coming from this opening day of MotoGP action at Balaton Park, but it is a KTM and Pedro Acosta who steals the ultimate headlines today.
He did it the hard way, he did it the painful way, and thankfully he looks A-okay after that bruising late crash. Acosta then leads day one here in the Grand Prix of Hungary.
Acosta edges out the Marquez brothers. Pedro Acosta by 6 thousandths from Marc Marquez, by a quarter of a second from Alex Marquez. A 3-4 for Cressini with Aldeguer next up, and Ea Bastianini ensuring that 3 KTMs go through, with Paul Spargaro up behind Morbidelli and Mir in 8th, Luca Marini 9th, and Fabio Quartararo by the barest of margins get to Yamaha through to qualifying 2. All 5 manufacturers will be represented whatever happens in qualifying 2 tomorrow. Look at the big names outside though. Martin and Bezzecchi, Bettapulli are the one manufacturer not represented. They were 11th and 12th. Rivaldo and Val Fernandez are further back. Gian Antonio, Bagnaia, Binder, Miller, Zarco, you name them. Big names wherever you look in qualifying 1 tomorrow morning. Do not miss that.
Yes, 10:50 a.m. local time here in Hungary. We're going to be waiting for Q1, and that will be a spicy old session. Pedro Acosta then, just before he was launching himself to the moon, at turn 2 he had pinged in that decisive 137.601. Job done. Hasn't been too many times this year. We've seen a KTM top of the pile. Top job by Pedro.
So Marc Marquez ultimately beats top spot, but what might concern his rivals, look at lap 17 on the same set of tyres, medium, a 137.7. That wouldn't have got him into the top 10, but it got him very close. Marc Marquez ultimately improving to a 37.0 to take P2.
6 thousandths between Acosta and Marc, a big gap and nearly 3 tenths back to Alex Marquez. Did a lot of early work on the medium front and medium rear tyre. And when he switched over to the soft rear, he was rapid down to 137.342.
Perhaps it's that 23rd lap he had cancelled, but might be the most crucial, the one when he got in the way, potentially, of Pecco Bagnaia. Fermin Aldeguer, he had a few lap times cancelled along the way, but the laps that were valid were all very fast ones. Look at all those 38s on run 1, getting down into the 37s on run 2. That 137.375 takes him up into 4th place, but he looks like he's a genuine podium threat here.
Further down, catching the eye, Mir on the factory Honda in 7th place. There is Mir popping up second fastest in sector 1 behind Marc Marquez.
Look at the advantage Acosta and KTM have in sector 2, a 10th and a half over Marc Marquez.
Paul Spargaro, the old warrior, fastest in sector 3. Top job by Paul. And another KTM Acosta in second.
Marc Marquez top in sector 1 and top in sector 4, but not top overall on day 1.
Yeah, the World Championship leader. Well, he set his stall out early this morning in Grand Prix of Hungary. It was the factory Ducati start that led the way at the end of FP1, but he has to play second fiddle to the rising star. Great to see Pedro Acosta back on song on the factory KTM, despite a heavy tumble late on at turn 2. He ends day 1 in P1 here in Balaton.